across the graves. Your son might be gone, but at least you got your sweetheart back. Too bad that siren gave you the slip. But with the sheriff on your side, maybe you can track him down. There's hope yet.
Have you ever wondered what would happen if you took the fairly open-ended storytelling and world-building of an old CRPG and merged it with the combat mechanics of an isometric shooter? Yeah, me neither. But the people over at Wolf Eye Studios did, and they actually made a game. Welcome to a world of cowboys, bandits, witches, werewolves, pigmen, and more. Nothing here is quite as it seems. There's always a mystery to be solved out here, dangerous ones at that. And you're stuck right in the middle of one of the biggest mysteries around. So keep your irons by your side and be wary of anything that seems even just a little bit off. Because this is the Weird West. One of, if not the very first thing you'll notice when even looking to get the game is the art style. Specifically, the art direction, I should say. The graphics themselves aren't necessarily that high quality, but the dark, cel-shaded art direction makes up for it in spades. Environments all feel suitably Western, but they also have this darker atmosphere just underneath the surface. From the shading and line work to the presence of just the occasional body, bits of blood, or seemingly random items just sitting around. It serves both the gameplay purpose of giving the player loot, but also tells the player that there are other things out here, and they're not very friendly. The Weird Wolves did some pretty good work on the soundtrack as well. It mostly comes out during cutscenes and other big moments where they play full-on lyrical songs, but the ambient tracks work decently as well, such as the combat tracks, which you'll be hearing a lot of. And with that, let's discuss what's going on here anyway. You play as... well, you don't really know. All you know is that your character is stuck in a mysterious room with portraits and other weird people surrounding you. One of these people will then cast a spell that remotely places a mark on the person whose portrait you're facing, thus transferring your soul into their body and having you carry out whatever story is going on for them at the moment. Your characters consist of a former bounty hunter, a man who's been turned into a pig monster, a Wendigo hunter, a werewolf, and a witch. And so what you're doing is following their stories while also trying to solve the mystery of your own situation and what it means for the Weird West as a whole, with paths crossing with each new character you end up inhabiting. All along the way, you decide the fates of a wide variety of people, which does change the story over time, such as letting certain gang leaders live, or asking forgiveness rather than seeking revenge, etc. How much chaos you sow in the Weird West is mostly in your hands, though violence is still inevitable, if only for the sake of your own survival. On that note, let's get to the gameplay.
Fire burns, spits, crackles with old men. This tavern is done for, but there's more left.
As you can tell, the gameplay isn't exactly traditional for a CRPG. It's more akin to a twin-stick shooter than anything else. The dev team themselves once described it as a more action-y version of Fallout 1 or 2, and I'd say that's a perfectly accurate description. From the top-down perspective, to the time-based map traveling, to the open-ended nature of quests and the story with all the choices you can make and the potential outcomes for them all, the game is very reminiscent of the old Fallout games, while also taking the actual gameplay and turning it into something that I'd argue is far more engaging than old Fallout gameplay. On the note of the map traveling, It has the same travel system of moving along a map over time with random encounters, and there's actually a neat twist to the map travel here. Since you'll be exploring the Weird West as multiple different people, you don't need to worry about exploring everything the first time around since it's all on the same map. And it even encourages exploring the same place multiple times depending on who you're controlling, such as how the Pigman has to stealth through normal towns since people will freak out and attack him on sight, as opposed to the bounty hunter who can just stroll through. On the note of combat, let's talk about this twin-stick gameplay. With a twin-stick shooter, hitting or missing is all on you rather than a vague dice roll, and it being fully real-time allows for more creative use of your items, especially your throwables like the cluster dynamite. I will say, however, that as enjoyable as I find the gameplay to be, especially with the variety in weapons combined with character and weapon skills, the controls themselves can get very clunky. Specifically aiming. To aim, you have to bring out your chosen weapon and then aim like a standard top-down shooter. However, the way you aim is also the same way you move your camera when walking around. The camera is stuck in place when you're aiming, making you holster your weapon when you want to get a better view of the fight before then bringing your weapon back out again to actually shoot. This problem can easily get you killed if your camera is in the wrong spot and you can't quite see an enemy or explosive that's getting too close for comfort. That's really my main complaint though, that and the geometry sometimes being a little hard to pin down with the camera view. As far as the RPG mechanics go, both the character and game-wide skills are alright, but they feel a little underdeveloped. I mostly found myself relying on the raw gameplay with just the occasional skill use here or there, since the skills just felt not very useful most of the time. And that, everyone, is Weird West. I'd been pretty interested in the game since I saw it announced, 2 years ago now? Whenever that Devolver Digital Conference game came out, I think is when I first saw it. Either way, I think it's a pretty good evolution of the CRPG formula, which feels like it's growing kinda stale with all the traditional D&D games. Perhaps this is a sign that the genre might be shifting direction? Who knows, but I give this game a cautious recommendation, since I still recognize this is a fairly niche type of game. But it's still very good in my opinion. This has been TheRatMan, and I will see you all later.